and kind of go through all the different moves. But the biggest one, obviously the biggest one in the entire NBA, not Gordon Hayward in terms of free agency, but with Stephen Curry signing 5-year, $201 million contract. That's a lot of cigars, Marcus. And he deserves every penny. He's proven that, and the Warriors made it a point to give him that max to keep him here and to keep him happy.
Yeah, this probably is the most anticlimactic major signing of all time because
we knew it was coming,
right? The only thing that surprised me about it is no options, right?
Mm-hmm.
He didn't do the 3 and then player option, or 4 and a player option, and also no trade clause. Like
no trade
clause. Yeah, I thought if anybody would demand a no trade clause or has the gravitas to do it, it would be Steph.
Why not flex his muscle on it? That was probably, as you said, it's probably the most surprising part of this.
Because probably when you're getting $201 million, you're like, all right, let me chill.
the richest contract in NBA history.
In team sports, yes.
Yeah, I mean, he's about to get $40 million per year. Bryce Harper is going to, I think, shoot past that in a couple off seasons. But
and Westbrook might get it too, right?
Yeah, I mean, he can only tie. Like anyone else now can only tie. He got the max amount of money right now you can get. Look, he was the 74th highest paid player in the NBA last year. I think he was right around where Nikola Pekovic and Serge Ibaka were. So this is just him gathering what he should have already been getting. And you could just tell how much of a plan this offseason already was for the Warriors because he was in like Hawaii when the clock struck midnight and it was announced. It was clearly there was not some like late night meeting. They just
there wasn't
announced
any haggling, like, it was just like, here's what we're going to do.
This was set. It was clear. And then if you watch how the dominoes fell, you could tell everything was kind of set where then it was going to be figuring out the Iguodala. Durant was going to wait in the background and take the pay cut. It was just, this has been a plan really laid since the Hamptons, right?
Like, really, like, they hashed this all out. I believe they've had, if not the specific numbers, the plan was already in place way back a year ago today, because they didn't get together and say, hey, man, this might break apart, so let's do it for 1 year. They had a plan to keep everybody together, and we just watched it play out.
Want to welcome those of you joining us on mercurynews.com and eastbaytimes.com, and those of you joining us on our Facebook pages. If you have a question you want us to answer during our free agency show, be sure to use the hashtag BASportsInsiders on Twitter or comment below on Facebook, YouTube, and in Scribble Live, and we will get to those. We've already got some good ones rolling through, but we're going to continue to move on. Just on this brief recap, as you mentioned, Kevin Durant was kind of waiting in the wings there for a while. The unexpected pay cut that he took, we knew that this was already on the table, kind of like the Curry thing, that those numbers just needed to be tweaked maybe here and there as we waited on the deals for other guys, the Andre Iguodalas, the Sean Livingstons, those other guys that were waiting in the wings. So we see Durant, 2 years, $53 million deal. Why was that pay cut, though, so surprising as it was?
Because, a lot of people, I guess, and technically are rightly saying, hey, he's basically just giving monies back to ownership, because if he was signing at the 31.8, which was a pay cut, which was about a $3 million pay cut from his max of what Curry got, basically, he was already taking a pay cut. And since he did that, they could already sign anyone for whatever amount of money that was already on the roster. They could have given Iguodala that. They could have given Livingston. But I think what people maybe fail to understand is there was some type of negotiations with Durant, Iguodala, all these guys, maybe even with this Nick Young signing, which apparently Durant was a part of, where I think he kind of said he'll shovel money back to ownership if they agree to pay, maybe a little bit more for Iguodala, a little bit more for Livingston, maybe the Nick Young thing. So it's not necessarily giving it back to ownership. It's just
that's kind of what it is.
It is, but
that's kind of
what it is to me. I think it's just allowing.
I don't think that was his motive for doing it, but
it did it. I mean, it saved him, I think, like $25 million.
That's what it is
in luxury tax.
And can't you say though that is what Anthony was saying with making sure these other guys got paid? Andre Iguodala was clearly the biggest winner of the Warriors' free agency.
I'm gonna go with Steph.
But Andre goes from 12
Nick Young, maybe.
We'll get to Nick Young, but Andre goes from $12 million a year to a 3-year, $48 million contract. And I mean, he played the game. There was a point, I know that there was that interview he called in, kind of told people to chill on the radio station. I wasn't here, but I heard that. And so he shopped himself around, and he really went through this process. Marcus, how did he get the most out of the Warriors to be able to come back with this extension and, get the money that he rightfully thinks he deserves?
We saw two philosophies play out, right? Durant is like, what do we need to do to keep everybody? So I think the undercurrent is at some point Durant got some inclination that Joe Lacob had a limit. Like if we get to this money, then I'm not paying for everybody. So Durant has to be like, all right, I'm gonna give it back to make sure you keep it to this level because I want to get all these guys. That wasn't Iguodala's philosophy. Iguodala's philosophy was like, they're gonna have to pay for us. Like, we've made them $1 billion over the last 3 years. I took less money to get here. Like, no more discounts. So he, in essence, created a scenario where if he left, it was because of money. And from what I'm told, Joe Lacob is like, nah, let's just do it. Because in the end, like Joe Lacob's been saying, he'll spend, I'll spend. You know, he's like basically, you know, in the video with Jay-Z and Jermaine Dupri talking about money ain't a thing. And then to lose Iguodala for money, it just probably wouldn't have been a good play. And I think Andre Iguodala used that. Like, all right, I'm going to bounce for money. And then when people ask me why you're not here, Joe Lacob didn't want to pay. And that's not
He already even tried to leak it a little bit before, a couple days before free agency, was saying Joe Lacob's worried about the tax. To me, what Durant did, yes, he did give money back to ownership in a sense. But he also, I think he just allowed Andre Iguodala and Shaun Livingston to maybe not get more money than they could have on the open market. Iguodala probably could have found that in Sacramento. Livingston could have found it elsewhere. He just allowed those two to play where they want to play, live where they want to live, have their families, and try to win more titles because everyone kind of still wanted it together.
How much of this, knowing what the cap issue would have been this year, do you think Durant was aware of, July 4th last year, even going into this, that this was going to have to be in play should he want to stay past his player option?
I mean, he's doing these 1-and-1s, which keeps it really flexible, where it's not like he's locking into this huge pay cut for the next 5 years.
It's just 1 year.
Is it next year? I think he's probably going to do the 1-and-1 again. He might take a max one, and then eventually he's going to get a huge deal. He's getting $30 million per year from Nike. He's got a bunch of business ventures. He's just really, really enjoying life right now. So
he wants to keep it that way.
Yeah. Look, if things went poorly this year, if he does fracture his leg when Pachulia gets thrown into him and he misses the whole season, and either they win it without him or they don't win it, and there's some frustrations, and he's sitting there rehabbing his leg all summer, maybe he's not sitting there going, oh, I'll take a huge pay cut. Maybe he's like, I need my mega max. Who knows where my career is going? Maybe Iguodala's gone. I mean, like, the only risk of Durant's whole 1 year things coming up is things might not go right 1 year, and then it'll be interesting to see what kind of like kumbaya is around this team.
I think it's at some point it still came down to Joe Lacob didn't want to spend this much, and how do we prevent him from spending that much? And I think because Durant did what he did, we don't have to ask that question because it's all about this great sacrifice Durant made. But why did he have to do it is the question. Why did he have to take less money? Because clearly, some way or another, the impression was, I'm not paying this much for Iguodala and Livingston and paying the tax for it.
Well, the weird thing is what he gave up was essentially what they paid Nick Young.
Exactly.
So to me, maybe it's not even, we're sitting here talking about Iguodala and Livingston. Maybe it was just, he said, hey, let's pay Nick Young. And I was like, if you want to pay Nick Young, Kevin Durant, give us $5 million back, and we'll give Nick Young $5 million.
And on top of that, I mean, he was one of the big recruiters. So we've heard of Nick Young. So was Draymond Green. Nick Young also met with Steve Kerr during the free agency period. And now he comes to the Warriors on a 1 year, $5.2 million deal. What they've got in both Young and Omri Catsby, shooters and size. Stuff that, obviously Bob Myers, when he's looking into the free agency period and with the way that the Warriors have so many defensive switches, that plays into their advantage.
Yeah, I mean, let's be real.
And
Nick Young's not here to lock anyone up.
The second unit couldn't score. Like there's a reason, Durant will have to come back, especially when you look at, when you start playing the good teams with good defenses. Steph was coming in at the 6 minute mark. All right, 7.5. Durant, all right, it's 9 minutes left, 10 minutes, and then they got to bring them back in. They just couldn't score. They could score at times, or defense could create offense, but as a reliable thing, that unit had trouble scoring. So part of it's because the floor is not spread. And now they got a couple guys. Nick Young is a dude who can get a bucket.
That's
173s last year.
He's just going to get a bucket. I know he's like, we're looking at 3 numbers. The thing about Nick Young is he could say, yes, I'm about to take this guy. And I'm going to get a bucket. And they don't have many dudes off the bench who can do that.
Ian Clark couldn't do that. Ian Clark could do what Nick Young could do from the three-point line. I mean, maybe not as prolifically, but look, he was a fine shooter, floor spacer, who's probably going to get paid elsewhere. But Ian Clark never once was like, clear out, let me take my man, let me get it to 17 feet out. And that was a problem at times with that second unit. I mean, there's no real issues on this roster, but the fact that they were able to turn Ian Clark's roster spot into Nick Young, I'd say minor upgrade. And then Matt Barnes' slot into Omri Caspi, to me that's an even bigger upgrade. They got him at the minimum, good shooter. You know, not as much of a playmaker, but he can get hot and he can kind of play probably the 2 through 4.
Who's he guarding though?
Who's Nick Young guarding? I mean, to me, he's just
but Matt Barnes would come. You could like throw him. He's a body you could put on somebody.
Well, look, the whole thing about this that I'm not gonna say I don't understand, but I thought they were gonna hand more responsibility over to Patrick McCaw. Now again, he's gonna be fighting for minutes, but the truth is, Patrick McCaw is going to be a better player next year. I think he should be getting any 20 minutes a night every night, and to me, it might be hard for Caspi and Young, or at least one of the two, to even find minutes.
So these signings are important, given those multi-year deals that we just talked about with both Livingston and Iguodala. And taking a look a little bit further at the way Nick Young has resurrected his career, I mean, you can really thank Luke Walton for that last season. And his agent was talking about it. Obviously, none of this has become official quite yet. We're going to hear from Bob Myers at 1 p.m. on Friday. And then we'll get a little bit more information about, you know, the, I guess, particulars of everything. But his agent talked yesterday, Anthony, about how much he likes the ball movement, the chance to earn that bigger role. I mean, how much bigger of a role is this guy going to have than being a wing that can score off the bench?
No, he's taking really a smaller role than he could have got elsewhere.
Nick Young?
Yeah. His agent was saying that he expects, you know, this could lead to something bigger, but it just doesn't seem like that's
agents are agents.
realistic.
I mean, you know. He could have got a bigger role in Minnesota. I remember was interested in him. He just probably didn't want to go play for Tom Thibodeau and play in Minnesota.
There you have to play defense.
It's not like a JaVale flyer, because last year JaVale was non-guaranteed, minimum deal, and you know, had to really earn any minutes he got. I think Nick Young comes in expecting to play, and he will play, but there'll be games where if Nick Young comes out and misses 2 straight threes, takes a bad shot, like Steve Kerr may go yank him, Patrick McCaw, rest of the game, Nick Young sitting on the bench. Like, he's going to have to be comfortable getting some DMPs, or at least some very minor minute nights, because we keep talking, how loaded is this wing rotation?
I think part of it too is some of these wing rotations and the stars just won't play that much. Like on the back-to-back, Andre, you could just not play him because you got a Nick Young. You could not play a Sean Livingston. And those are the games where he'll get to play more. I'm sure they told him, we're going to chill with some of our guys because, you know, we got to think about this long term, and those are minutes for you.
You know where else he's going to score? He's going to have a couple 15-point fourth quarters when we're all dug in our laptops because they're already up 30, and it's Nick Young and Damian Jones and a bunch of those guys out there, second unit garbage time, and they're just going to go,
probably
go ahead, get your stats
exactly.
now, Nick Young. I mean, you're basically playing for the Lakers.
I mean, the question I wonder is, how is Kevin Durant going to handle this? Because he's a dude who they have a hard time keeping on the bench. So it's like, all right, Durant, you really got low. You're gonna sit these 5 minutes. He's always like, hey, get me back in.
He played very little minutes last year. I mean, he was way down there.
That's what I'm saying. It was like an agitate, like, come on, get me in, get me in.
And to his benefit of, I guess, really not to his personal benefit, Caspi can play both forward positions. Yeah. So that technically will relieve Durant even further, relieve Draymond even further.
Durant and Clay, them dudes want to play, though. Like, they want to be on the court.
Who's inactive on opening night? Kevon Looney, #1.
I don't think he's going to be on the team.
Well, they got to find somebody. Are they just going to stretch him, release him?
I think you could dump him. What is it, $2 million? Not even $2 million.
Just cut him?
You could just cut them, literally.
That's more tax money than they're using.
That's fine. I'm not concerned about Joe Lacob's tax money.
A $2.1 million veteran minimum now is like
six,
more than six, especially when you get up.
But it doesn't apply until at the end of the year anyway. So you can maneuver the roster and then figure out what it's going to be.
Then who's going to be inactive? Whoever fills the Looney spot or Looney, that's one. It's either maybe Jones or Bell, but you might want all your center options. It might be one of the wings. Might not be Bell.
We'll
see. We'll know more.
We've got some questions coming in before we jump on to JaVale McGee is obviously the big topic of the day. This one from Lizel Reyes. What's happening with Ian Clark? You mentioned him earlier. Obviously, he's still out there in this free agency period. But he's, as we've talked about the last 2 seasons, this guy has proven that he's about to get a payday somewhere.
It's been real, Ian. You did a great job.
Somewhere.
The last 2 roster spots need to go to big man. So Ian Clark is not a big man. You know, payday maybe coming for Ian Clark, but maybe not really coming for Ian Clark because the market's dried up. There's way less money this year than there was in the market last year. All these restricted free agents. You saw yesterday Robertson just signing back for the Thunder, where Robertson declined a 4-year, $48 million extension early in the year, figuring he's going to get to that market that everyone thought was going to be flush with money. But then the salary cap goes so far down, now he had to take basically a pay cut from the extension he declined. There's a lot of people out there like that are sitting there. Even JaVale McGee, I think he's going out searching for anything above the minimum, trying to find it. Maybe the Kings give him that. But Ian Clark, I wouldn't be surprised if Ian Clark signs a very low, maybe 2-year deal.
I think
somewhere.
he might be like a Mo Spates situation last year, where it's like, the Warriors are like, man, you did great. We're probably gonna move on though, but I hope you get paid somewhere else, and it doesn't come. So he might take a 1-year deal, try to earn his money again, play and hit the market again next year, or maybe later on.
Maybe get a mid-level from somewhere.
Maybe somewhere somebody takes a flyer on him.
Brooklyn,
go with the championship pedigree.
When Brooklyn misses out on all their offer sheets, they're going to throw in every restricted free agent.
He'll probably get a deal somewhere, but it could be a situation where
I don't think it's going to be as high as we thought.
Yeah, there's so many people out there, so many players out there who don't have a deal, so it's going to be tough. And from what I was told, JaVale loves it so much, it's going to take a significant raise to get him to go. If he gets what's he get close to $3 million if he gets to 20%.
But he has to.
He has to take the minimum because his 20% doesn't even go above the new minimum.
That's right. Yeah, so he's got to take the minimum.
But the minimum's 2.3 for him.
So it would have to be if somebody offers him 2 for $8, I think he'll be back. He'll just take the Warriors' money. He does love it here.
Who would offer him more than that? That's.
Nobody so far.
We did say the night of the finals that both him and Livingston were the only two that you can really point to that could have major paydays elsewhere.
I thought Livingston was going to leave, but
I did too.
He was first off the board.
I don't think he wanted to leave. I think he took all those other options off the table and worked out a deal to stay.
All right, so with JaVale, the situation right now, he met with the Clippers on Wednesday. Today's Thursday. He's meeting reportedly from ESPN with the Kings today. And as we just said, he has to take the minimum because of all of these salary cap issues the Warriors currently have. Could you see him fitting in with the Kings given that situation there? We think Willie Cauley-Stein will probably be their starting center, and then, I guess kind of out of nowhere, Zach Randolph now. And then they still have within that mix, they kind of, I guess, the poor man's Warriors there. They've got the Costa Kufos, Scals up there too. I mean, they've got other options. He has to go into a backup role. I mean, are there any other options out there for JaVale where he could significantly up his time? I mean,
his playing time will be greater elsewhere. Even if he's just a backup, because he's not the primary backup here. I mean, David West is going to play backup minutes. Draymond Green's going to play a bunch of center minutes. Zaza, at this point, I'd still expect him back and to be starting.
Yeah, but what if he doesn't? Now David West is your starter and JaVale McGee's your backup.
Yeah, maybe, but I'm just saying, how the center rotation is here, where he's not. They don't want to play him more than 12 minutes than 2 little 6-minute spurts. So if he's chasing playing time or if he's chasing more money, he's gonna have to go elsewhere. But if you're JaVale McGee, I think he more than anyone should understand the difference between playing with the Warriors and playing with a team like the Kings. He talked about it all last year.
He's played with those teams before.
The Kings could be a playoff contender next year. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing that out there.
Not in the West. You throw them in the East, maybe.
They're not making a playoff.
But he's really going to need the money.
Teammates love him. He's playing for a championship.
They need an athletic center, too. I mean, they're not going to get that in David West.
He's got a chance to play in big games. I think he'll be back. I think JaVale's done everything that he's looking for. He's already done all of that, and then he did this year. And I think he's looking at it like, man, that was great. So unless I can get, $8 million from somebody, why would I leave this?
So Marcus thinks he's back. You think maybe
60%, maybe.
Okay. We'll leave it at that.
And you think?
I don't think he's back.
Okay.
I don't.
You think he's going to get a big offer?
He's going to get a payday?
As we talked. That was the biggest point I took away from our conversation after the finals. That, obviously they need another athletic center, and they need somebody who's going to be able to back up Draymond when they go small. So is that guy JaVale McGee? Can they really get more minutes out of him than they got last season? I don't know.
I don't think they want more minutes out of him.
Yeah, I mean, they just kind of want, their 5-6 roster spots that they're going to have when they get these 2 more centers, whoever they are, to be centers, and they'll play small minutes for a bunch of guys. I think they think Jordan Bell can immediately contribute next year. I think they're hopeful on Damian Jones. I think Summer League's going to tell us a lot about his progression.
We just don't know enough yet.
If Damian Jones looks like a player, then JaVale McGee's minutes are going to dwindle anyway.
Because they want Damian Jones to look like a player, and then they want, because they need young guys into the future.
And we'll get to some of those young guys, but before that, we know JaVale has some connections there with celebrities. Did you guys go to the softball game?
Yeah, I was there.
Okay, so might see a little bit different makeup of Oracle next year, one of its final years here, with the Warriors playing in Oakland. If JaVale stays, how often does Amber Rose come around, and who is Nick Young going to bring in? I mean, I know the whole Swaggy P thing is I guess he kind of retired it a little bit last year, but that's still a persona. Do we see any new celebrities coming through?
You think Iggy Azalea stops by Oracle?
I think
that's a celebrity that
while.
won't be there. I think if we can guarantee who's not going to be there. Who was it? Is Amber Rose friends with? I almost thought that was a Draymond.
I thought it was
Durant
more of
type
I think
thing.
It might have been a KD thing.
Yeah.
I think it might have been a KD thing. But, you know, JaVale, it was JaVale's softball game, so if he's got jug life like that.
Famous friends who get celebrities. I don't think JaVale's the one bringing celebrities. Maybe.
Hey, Amber Rose was at his softball event.
That's all I'm
saying. That's all I'm saying.
Does anybody invite Rob and China, or is that?
I think you can only do one or the other at this point, right?
I don't think Rob's in position to be invited anywhere right now. China might be game though. she might be ready to roll.
No comment.
All right, so we're gonna play Bob Myers. We're each gonna act him for a little bit. There's 13. The roster stands at 13 currently, 10 players that were on the roster last season during the championship year, and 3 newcomers. We talked about Jordan Bell, Omri Caspi, and Nick Young. So there's 2 spots left. We talk about the need for an athletic center, but let's go to Zaza Pachulia first. So he can either take
everyone's favorite player.
Everyone's favorite. What does Mark Purdy call him? Brute? He mentioned it a lot. Same word. Gosh, I wish I knew what that was. Mark Purdy, if you're watching, be sure to drop a comment in the section below and tell me.
Mark Purdy, I hope you're not watching.
He had some word for it, but anyways, I digress on that. So they can either bring him back at a minimum deal for this year, or I guess using 20% of the salary that he made last season.
Get 20% raise.
It seems like that is a safe option, to say the least.
It would get him up to like $3.4 million. I think if I'm the Warriors, I'm saying you're not getting the 20% raise. You're staying at the minimum, because I'm not sure he has options out there. And I know how much he loves the Bay Area. He always have his kids around. All these players always talk about the family atmosphere and how differently the Warriors allow their families to be around than other organizations. I think Zaza has no interest in leaving. I think the only way he leaves is if the Warriors find someone else they want to go to. But at this point, at the minimum, or if they have to, 20% over the minimum, sure.
I think they want Zaza back. I don't know. I think Zaza might be looking like, man, Zaza got to get paid.
He tried that last year, though.
Well, no,
he turned down money.
Turned down a bunch of money.
Turned down money.
So
but that money's not there.
No.
Yeah, and it's are you certain that would come back?
I think that's why it's lingered
If he
so
wants
long.
to come back, I think he can come back. Steve Kerr likes him. The Warriors organization and management loves him way more than fans do, right? They kind of see the stuff that he can do, and fans kind of kill him. But if he wants to come back, especially, I mean, you're not getting a starting center for $3.4 million. It's just not happening.
I almost think both of them have been told, like, we'll be patient. We won't fill your roster spot. You can have a few days, go into July 8th, 9th, and go search. And if you can find something, come back to us with it. If JaVale, if you can find something, then we'll talk. Maybe they're saying, Zaza, we'll give you the minimum, but if you go find something that's way above it, we'll give you that 20% raise. Maybe it's something like that.
He'll be back. Where's he going? Atlanta? Like, where's he going?
I almost think it should just be Zaza, JaVale, run it back.
Why would JaVale want that situation again when he can go back up DeAndre? I think that'd be more fun system for him, specifically with his skills.
Does he have an offer though? I mean, it sounds great on paper.
I mean, I'm just saying that I'm throwing out the scenario.
Only if it's like for significantly more money, because JaVale loved the situation he was in last year, and think about how many dunks he crushes because of who he's around.
Who's throwing them to live?
Who's the guards for the Clippers now that Chris Paul's gone? Austin Rivers,
Patrick Beverly.
and Patrick Beverly.
I think I would love to see that. Pat Beverly throwing the lob, getting that whole thing going.
The only problem is the defender that's guarding Patrick Beverly is going to be on JaVale McGee saying, shoot the floater, Patrick Beverly.
Please shoot Patrick.
All right, so we know that the last 2 spots are going to go to a big man. So Zaza, we have that in the mix. That's there on the table. We had a question come through. where was it? Well, the first one, this is one about for you, Marcus, how to get an internship with you. Is that do you have an internship program?
Yeah, you can pay me.
Okay, so
whoever said that, tell them make me an offer.
Stipend. Just give them like credit, school credit. Or something.
So
they have to pay me to be an intern.
Okay, well that's the first one.
Better.
So here's a question. I think it's from Simon from the City. The Warriors, as we said, still need a starting center. Pachulia. What about Willie Reed and Dedmon?
Reed was rumored by David Aldridge today. Apparently, the Warriors had at least reached out. There was like 9 teams.
I think they got a few. Like if Zaza bounces and JaVale bounces, they got to find big men. You might hear Anthony Tolliver's name pop up. I'm sure they've got a couple names that they're ready to go just in case these dudes get some money. But will they be better than Zaza and JaVale?
Dedmon to me is too much money.
Dedmon's way too much
if
money.
I was the Clippers or the Kings, whoever's meeting with JaVale, I'd rather have Dedmon. I mean, younger,
no question,
shot blocker. I'd pay him.
But he's
gonna
pay he's gonna get like 9-10 million probably.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
so Willie Reed, maybe you know what else they could do? They could just get one of Zaza and JaVale back and then leave an open roster spot. You can easily go into the season with the open roster spot because guess what's going to happen when guys start getting bought out or just you just find somebody in the D League you like, they're going to want to play for the Warriors.
Speaking of buyouts, popular name that kind of has resurfaced, there's some wayward ways that Jamal Crawford could get back to the Warriors. I think it was Sunday, that 3-team trade between the Clippers, Nuggets, and the Atlanta Hawks. What that did, the Clippers got Gallinari, Nuggets got their 2nd-round pick. That was kind of the wayward way for them to be able to get Paul Millsap. Then the Clippers got Jamal Crawford, Diamond Stone, and a 2018 first-round pick.
The Hawks
got them. So
Travis Schlenk and the Hawks.
Yes.
He's making moves.
So you already see the connections there. And the move here wouldn't happen soon, I guess, per se, because don't they have to figure out, does Crawford really want to stay in Atlanta and how much Atlanta?
Want to stay in Atlanta.
Well, how much are the Hawks how much do they want for him? Because he's 37 years old.
He
wants to go to a contender. So the buyout seems like it's on the table inevitably. Give me a percentage. How much, Marcus, how much of a percentage do you put that he's with the Warriors by the time training camps? Okay.
I think the fact that they signed Caspi and Nick Young is a very bad sign for Jamal Crawford because they don't want another guard.
I can tell you right now, Jamal Crawford is not coming to be the 9th guard on the Warriors.
Yeah.
This is just not
also, like, the buyout's tricky because he's owed $14 million each of the next 2 years. Only $3 million is guaranteed on that 2nd year, so they basically would have to pay him $17.2 million.
That's what's left that's guaranteed right now.
Maybe he cuts that down. I mean, Schlenk is a hardball type guy where he will not.
Yeah,
he's not just going to go, okay, here's only $17 million. Like, he'd really try to trim it down, or he's going to try to trade it. Apparently, the Cavs, like a team like the Cavs, might take a flyer and try to.
He's going to go a place where he can be a 6th man. Like that's what he wants.
Somebody said he wants to stay in LA and maybe he could go over to the Lakers and
go over to the Lakers and
shoot from Lonzo.
Be a starter. I don't think he's going to a situation where he's going to be behind 5 or 6 guards. Like
he likes to dribble too much. He likes some
that.
freedom. He likes playing.
All right, winners and losers of free agency. I've got mine, Marcus. I'm going to start with you. Obviously, we haven't talked big.
With you got yours. Let's hear it.
I tend to think, I know that this is probably an unpopular opinion, I think the Indiana Pacers, as much as they did not get out of the Oklahoma City trading Paul George away, and then they get Victor Oladipo. He comes back to Indiana where I covered him. He was.
Are you about to say that the Pacers are a winner?
I think she's calling him a winner.
I think years.
First off, let's uncover some stuff. Let's uncover some stuff.
I want to go.
Courtney, where did you go to college?
I went to Indiana University.
Oh, so somehow.
No.
Victor Oladipo is like the greatest.
No, he's not. I mean, that's going to help them sell tickets. That's it. That's just the ploy that they have there.
How could you call that a win?
Years down the line, this is a short-term deal for Oklahoma City. Paul George, in my opinion, will probably bounce after last year.
Most likely.
If you see Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook still not being able to get over the hump, you think Paul George and Russell Westbrook are going to be able to do that?
What would you rather, like basketball-wise? Oladipo and Sabonis, Marcus Smart, Olynyk. All they got to do is wait. There's no reason they had to pull that trade
Olynyk's
off.
a free agent, so they can't.
He's still.
You could do a sign trade. You could do a sign trade. Olynyk is not a bad player.
You know what?
No, absolutely. I mean,
Olynyk would have
Wizards Game 7. That's what I think of when I think of Kelly.
My point
Olynyk.
is,
they could have got a better deal.
They could have gotten a better deal from Boston. Boston right now would love Paul George.
Yes, I'm saying long term, I think we're going to be saying that the Pacers actually won this. I mean, you put a few years down the road, you have Sabonis, Miles Turner, they're two bigs. You throw Oladipo in that mix. He's not going anywhere right now. All guys in their 20s. This is a rebuilding year for the Pacers. They had so many deals, ugly deals, that they weren't able to pawn off. Yesterday, obviously, we see Monte Ellis.
How many picks did they get?
In the trade?
They got zero. They wanted 2 first-round picks. Oklahoma City came back and said, we're going to give you one.
Indiana.
The thing that I don't like about the trade is that the Thunder actually trimmed salary. Next year, Oladipo's making more than Paul George. Oladipo's not a good contract. There's people in the league that were saying well, that was the greatest salary dump ever by the Thunder. They salary dumped Oladipo, who people don't like his contract, and got back Paul George. I mean, I like Oladipo as like a $12 million per year type player, but he's getting 20 the next 4 years.
I think Kevin Pritchard knows something that we don't. I think down the road, I'll call you in 3 years and we can discuss this, but I think this short-term deal is not going to be as good.
You might be right. Kevin Pritchard is a good GM, but if you do call us 3 years down the road, it will not be because of what happened this year. It'll be because of something else they did.
I'm telling you, long-term
but it's not because of this summer. It's because of whatever. They're going to do something else.
When we look back down the road, we're going to say that this sparked something for the Pacers turnaround because Paul George clearly had the inclination. He wasn't going to be there much longer.
They had to trade him.
Yeah, they had to.
Trade him. I just don't think they
didn't get enough. Right. Everybody looked at this and said, "What did they get back?" I mean, it was a bizarre transaction.
And all they had to do was wait.
But I think that down the road, they will be the winners and Oklahoma City will be the losers in this. Now let's get to some of the other big ones. We haven't talked Gordon Hayward yet. We're going to get to him at the end. By
the way, Indiana can't be a winner because they cut Monte. That automatically
they had to dump
that.
That was Kevin Pritchard's best.
Yeah, they had to.
That was Kevin Pritchard's best.
Bay Area bias over here, but okay. So we haven't talked
losers.
We haven't really talked Houston at all, which that kind of sparked the whole free agency thing to begin with Chris Paul, and now James Harden gets to go back to being an off guard. How does this shape up next year? I mean, he spent a year learning really how to be a point guard in Mike D'Antoni's system, and it worked. Are they legitimate contenders?
Did it work?
But are they?
Won a bunch.
I don't really like this trade that much.
They won a bunch of regular season games. So, and then in the playoffs, he was exhausted and he was guardable.
But now that you have a Chris Paul and he goes back to being an off guard, is that transition pretty seamless?
I don't know if he goes back to being off guard. I think they can alternate. That's the point. Okay. Chris Paul is already saying, I'll play off the ball.
So doesn't that seem like a win? You say you don't like it.
To me, look, Chris Paul doesn't play off the ball. He's never played off the ball. James Harden can. He slashed in Oklahoma City. He can be a slasher at times. He's almost going to have to do it way too much, I think, because Chris Paul, I don't think, can. What does Chris Paul like to do? Shoot 17-foot jumpers and control the clock.
Top 5 in the league on catch and shoot threes.
Chris Paul likes to shoot 17-footers and control the game. Mike D'Antoni banishes you from the court if you shoot 17-footers, and he likes to go up and down. It's a weird fit between those two. I think it's a weird fit with your two stars or 6'3" and under. I'm not huge on this trade.
I think it's, first off, it's a win because do you have to guard Chris Paul? Absolutely. There's no question about it. Who else on Houston did you have to guard? You automatically better because now you got two guys. You just have to guard them, and that makes you better. But look, Chris Paul is great, and James Harden is great. I'm not about to limit what they can do just because I haven't seen it. I think them dudes. I think they can play a different way. Mm-hmm. Like we saw this with Kevin Durant. How are you going to dominate the ball? That dude is so good. You put him in a different way to play, he's probably going to figure out how to do it because he's that good. I think Chris Paul is that good. You put him in a different, hey, Chris Paul, today we need you to play shooting guard. All right, you give me 2 weeks, I'll have this thing figured out. I think those two players are that elite talent-wise that they'll be able to figure it out just because we haven't seen it before.
You know what I don't like about this trade, though? Everyone's talking about, Paul George is probably going to leave Oklahoma City. Chris Paul's only under contract for one more year in Houston. If the Rockets want to bring him back next year, it'll have to be on a 5-year mega max money where he'll be getting $40 million when he's 38 years old. He's aging. I wouldn't want to pay him a ton. He might leave if we're talking about this fit maybe not working.
Though. They didn't lose anything.
I mean, they lost a bunch of pieces.
They didn't lose anything. But that's what I'm saying.
They lost probably more than the Thunder lost.
Yeah, totally. They lost Patrick Beverly and
Sam Decker's good. I like Sam Decker. Montrezl Harrell. Those are pieces.
They're pieces that got them losing to San Antonio without.
I just think. Leonard. Look, I don't think they made a step up. Really.
You just need to be great to win in the West.
And that's fair. And jumping ahead here, we'll go right into who the Warriors' biggest threat's going to be next year. It has to be Houston. Because I just don't think that Oklahoma City. I mean, well, first off, the big picture of this Western Conference,
like define threat, really.
Okay, but the big picture of the Western Conference and of this whole free agency is, there's so much that was open in the East. Yet it doesn't seem like these superstars have the trust from teams in the East to want to go there. Therefore, you see all of this movement that we have in the West, teams trying to become their own super teams, trying to mimic, these backcourt duos that we see with, KLAY and Stephen Curry. I think Houston has to be their biggest threat when you're taking a look at what next year is going to give them, an actual threat in the West.
I think San Antonio still is.
I think it's still San Antonio.
Yeah. I mean,
I think Houston will be the number 2 seed just because this is what they do. They win regular season games. We see this. They were number 3 last year. So it's not like they're trash. They'll win a bunch of regular season games. But look, at what point has Chris Paul been a threat to the Warriors? And at what point has James Harden been a threat to the Warriors? Like neither scare the Warriors. So together they don't. Kawhi scared the Warriors though.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'd still have the Spurs in that most dangerous number 2 slot. I mean, we saw what they were doing in Game 1 with Kawhi.
Yeah.
To me, he's still the best non-Warrior in the West, like as a player. He plays the 3, he can guard pretty much any of the Warriors' main guys. But I think you guys maybe mildly might be sleeping on the Thunder as a just defensive juggernaut team. Westbrook, Robertson back, George.
First off, Westbrook
Patrick Patterson was a good
defense.
signing. But, I mean, he's going to be on the court. I'm just talking about their defensive line. Patrick Patterson's a pretty good signing. Steven Adams, that's a good
Patrick Patterson doesn't play D. And
Patrick Patterson's a pretty good defender.
No, he doesn't.
And then the other team we haven't talked about, Timberwolves.
Yeah.
I'm on the Timberwolves.
Because Jimmy Butler now down the road
tough.
Is going to be that guy who lures guys in.
I think the Timberwolves, if
next
they get to the
year
playoffs,
after
they're going to be a problem.
Taj Gibson's a good signing.
For me, it's San Antonio, Minnesota.
That's fair.
Those are the 2.
Number 3?
Not in the West. I'm talking about as far as threats to the Warriors. San Antonio, then Minnesota. They can play both ways. They can play half court and punish the Warriors. They can play tempo.
Minnesota's going to have no bench, but Tibbs doesn't really use a bench, so they're going to go 48 minutes.
Isn't that why he left Chicago?
Yeah, well, that's they've had issues, but Jimmy Butler's going to be back to playing 45 minutes a night.
It's odd. They can't get a bench, dude. Like, they can't. They keep striking out on these guys.
Well, they tried like Cole Aldridge and some others.
They tried Nick Young. I mean, they need somebody.
Jeff Teague now playing point.
That might be a spot for Jamal Crawford.
All right, some more questions coming in from YouTube right now. This actually goes back to what we were talking about with the Pacers. This one's from Lelaine Young. Monte Ellis, a possibility for a 3rd-string backup for the 14th spot. I knew that you would like that.
Nah.
No?
No, it's not.
It's not going to be a guard.
Where does he go?
Somewhere on the minimum.
Memphis might be a good spot for him.
Not Dallas. Not going to be playing.
Memphis might be a good spot for him.
And looking forward to this summer. Obviously, Summer League's going on shortly, and the Warriors, you'll be out there.
Saturday night, they open.
So Frank Castro asking, what should we be looking for during Summer League games, except for Anthony on the sideline?
Yes, for sure look for that. But I think Game 1's pretty interesting. Markelle Fultz against Patrick McCaw on ESPN.
Yeah.
That should be fun. Jordan Bell, it just looked like a big-time project. Or, you could tell early with McCaw last year in Summer League, right? Okay, this guy could maybe – be in a rotation. I think you probably know early on with Bell, and then the 3rd guy would be Jones.
Damian Jones.
What does Jones look like?
Yeah.
Looney will be out there. At this point, it seems like the franchise and on the fan base is basically punted on Kevon. So to me, it's those 3.
I mean, if Looney's not in shape, we're done here.
And if you're looking for some fun, Bryce Alford, the shooter son of Steve Alford's on the team. I mean, he's not making a roster, but he might hit some threes.
We're not looking for fun.
There's a few people might look for some fun.
Jabari Brown.
Cal product.
That's a dude might make. I'm telling you, they got Swaggy P, so they probably don't need as much, but that dude gets buckets.
You know who else I'm looking for? Krista Marco, roaming the sidelines. Krista Marco, first time he's been a head coach.
Is he going to be like Steve or Mike Brown? Is he going to be chill or is he going to be breaking clipboards?
Chill.
It's Summer League.
That's where you got to show.
This is his opportunity.
This is where you show what you can do.
This is probably bigger than for Kristen, scouting in the finals. I mean, he's a head coach.
Big deal.
All right, so we've talked about this year's free agency. Gordon Hayward will be how we end this, but down the road. I mean, the Warriors, there's no hurdle completely cleared yet. KLAY Thompson becomes a free agent 2019, so that's 2 seasons away, and then Draymond Green in 2020. The luxury tax, the NBA's luxury tax is already kind of, that's already in the conversation. Are those two going to have to take pay cuts to be able to stay here? And then there's the possibility. He's from Los Angeles. At that point, the Lakers will probably be a super team with Lonzo Ball, maybe.
Ooh, we on the Lonzo Ball bandwagon earlier.
But
she got her baller rant. She got her.
I didn't pay $400 for my
slippers.
But so if the Warriors win another title or two in the next 2 years, could Thompson want to return home? I tend to think that, we're looking at this, we're talking about this 2 years from now, though at this point, KLAY Thompson will have left the Warriors. What do you think, Anthony?
I'd be worried about Sebastian Telfair's team signing him in the Chinese league the way he's enjoying his time over there.
Has he come back yet, or is he still there?
I don't think he is.
Somebody on Twitter said he was back, but I don't know how true.
I mean, when he airballed that 3, it's kind of like that's your time to, one-way ticket home.
He's having a good time. Maybe. So much has to play out, and these seasons have to formulate. There was such a good vibe around this team after the season that, of course, everyone wanted to bring it back. But seasons can turn, injuries can happen, guys can decline, situations can change. At this point, I'd predict KLAY Thompson re-signs in a couple of years. I mean, everything he said would indicate that. But we're not talking about KLAY Thompson's thought process right now. We're talking about what it will be in the 2019 offseason, which we don't know.
When he sees Lonzo Ball, Julius Randle, and Brandon Ingram become stars, then he'll want to sign.
Or LeBron James.
Or LeBron James in
2018.
So he would leave a bunch of stars to go join a bunch of more? Yeah.
We've talked about when he's going to get his opportunity to become the man.
First off, why would KLAY, to become the man, go to the place where his father lives?
Doing radio.
Yeah, right? It's that's not the way to, take control of your life. He's trying to get away from his dad's rule.
Well, I mean, there's some reports out there. Obviously, before the Oklahoma City deal went down, the talk about 2 years from now with Paul George going to the Lakers, it's where he's from, and then the LeBron James talking that, and then you kind of hear some rumblings behind the scenes that, Paul George and KLAY Thompson, maybe that's a conversation that they're having about 2 years down the road. Whether Paul George stays in Oklahoma City or not, after the season, I think is a moot point. Could you see them, how would that play out? Could you see them playing together?
Here's the part I don't understand. Why would KLAY, who's already paired with a superstar, be looking for another superstar to pair with? Why would it be better than being with Steph?
Well, what if there's the argument made that he has to take the pay cut and he doesn't want to do that?
Then now it's a money deal, and who's to say he's taking a pay cut by going to LA? The Warriors will always be able to pay him more, so he'll be taking a pay cut to go to LA. If you create this fictional situation out there, it's probably where he's A1. That's the only other thing he wouldn't have here, is he wouldn't be A1. So you can't go team up with Paul George and be A1.
What if LeBron James is also there as well?
He definitely can't be A1 with LeBron. So he'll be going to be a third fiddle.
I think it's possible it happens, but I just don't think if KLAY Thompson's making the decision now, he's not even thinking about it. So I don't think he's having any conversations
down the road.
I don't think he's having conversations with Paul George about it. Apparently, he told a reporter in China that I haven't. I think he said something about last time I talked to Paul George, I was beating him at FIFA during the Olympics or something. Maybe, like I said, we'll know when the situations play itself out and when he has to make that decision, what's going on.
I don't think it'll be LA. I think it'll be somewhere else.
So clean slate, out of his backyard.
That's
no
the
more
only
California.
reason.
Eastern Conference.
Look,
people got to start going to the East.
Here's what people, somewhere in the East probably.
Miami.
People got to understand, KLAY has it really good. How many other players can make $25 million and nobody cares whether or not you're a leader, you're not responsible for answering the he gets to dip in the locker room.
He rarely talks to the media.
Yeah, it's you go to LA, now you gotta do KLAY doesn't want to do that.
And some guys do,
that's,
but he doesn't.
That's still 2 years away. There's all those factors with the Warriors and with the Lakers.
He's not gonna be KLAY's not young. What is KLAY? 27? Yeah. It's not like at 29 he's gonna be now I want to be this guy. This is who he is. He gets to have the money and win the championships and be a secondary, no pressure kind of figure. He goes somewhere else, now it's all on KLAY.
I think the one thing we're maybe underestimating is how these guys age. I think Durant and Curry are going to age really well because of how skilled they are. But, you know, NBA, different guys age at different times. And KLAY and Draymond are not like these super crazy. I mean, KLAY obviously is skilled as a shooter. But, you know, think about what happened to guys like Joakim Noah. And just like sometimes randomly guys fall off a cliff. Maybe it's an injury. Maybe it's something. So it's just
Usually
it's too far.
Though,
yeah, but it's to me, it's too far off in the distance to predict what KLAY is going to do.
It would have to be, for me, it has to be money or a chance to be A1. Like, otherwise, whatever he would want, he already got it.
Or just stuff goes bad here.
All right.
Just
So,
I mean,
so last year at this time, 4th of July was like the big day. Kevin Durant, Player Tribune. The year before
KD
that.
Day.
KD Day.
I think Warriors World had a KD Day shirt.
Nothing on 4th of July this year, but a similar situation with the Players Tribune in Gordon Hayward. What was it, 2 days ago? When he signed?
July 4th. Yeah.
July 4th. It wasn't July 4th. Did,
Yeah, it was
did he come out on July 4th again?
Yeah.
Yeah,
July 4th.
Okay, so I've got my days mixed. I thought it was the 5th.
I mean, you've been
So-
gallivanting around the nation, so.
You know
I'm
how
not
that
surprised.
is. All right, so he's 27 years old. $128 million contract, gets reunited in Boston with Brad Stevens, who he had for 2 years, changed his game at Butler. And now he's kind of getting that KD treatment, wouldn't you say?
Is he?
Betray word.
I mean, fans are going to be fans.
I'm
like,
yes,
there's
you're going to
no-
see burn jerseys. You're going to see all
Where's
of that.
Oscar Robertson? Where's Stephen A. calling it the softest move? Like,
well,
nobody's
I mean,
saying that.
that's because logically it makes sense. Not that Durant didn't, but Durant was just the team that he had just lost. And guess what? Kevin Durant's Kevin Durant, Gordon Hayward's Gordon Hayward. I mean, that's the difference. I mean, it's a huge, way bigger name.
No question.
But he's still, there's some salty Salt Lake fans. I mean, however you want to call it.
Yes.
And
That's
he
par for the
didn't,
course,
you know,
I think.
he didn't smoothly handle it with
No.
not
Kinda
only
botched a little bit.
very much. However, the leak got out. Chris Haynes.
Shout out
breaks
to
it.
Chris Haynes who
Shout
got
out.
it.
He should have just. All he should have done
good
is
tweet.
not
That was great.
like why'd they try to backtrack it and then just because they wanted to preserve
They're
the scoop.
so weird about this. It's so silly. They're like, oh, we have to be the first one. Man, shut up. Like, people are going to. What happens if somebody finds
Well,
out?
look, Players Tribune. Okay, you got outscooped. I understand you want it. You didn't have it. Don't worry about it. Allow the news to be broken.
Absolutely, like-
because Gordon Hayward can still post something later that night, and
people
everyone's reading
still
it.
read it.
Everyone's reading.
It doesn't make. It's just like straw man of. I don't even know why they care. Like, let's stop the media from getting it so we could get it. Like, it doesn't even make a difference.
Well, he didn't have as iconic of a picture as Kevin Durant did.
It was
with the
still kind of in the
crossed
gym
arms
with the hair, you know. But yeah, you're right.
I mean, he got to have the arms folded. He
Hey,
didn't.
where was Durant? Like a
and the
cornfield? That was-
yeah.
what was that
Do they
about?
have cornfields in Oklahoma? Is that a thing?
Yeah, I mean, you can find them.
They had only had tornadoes.
I don't know why
there.
he for that picture shouldn't be in a cornfield.
All right, so last season what we saw with Hayward, career high in scoring and rebounding, 21.7 points per game, 5.4 rebounds per game, pivotal part of the third-ranked defense, in the NBA. Going to Boston now, he gets to unite with, Avery Bradley, Isaiah Thomas. How does this change the picture? We talk big picture in the NBA of, why superstars aren't going to the East. I don't know if you can put him in that category, but how does this change the outlook of the East where, Cleveland doesn't have that clear path necessarily on paper when you try to figure it? Is Boston a legitimate threat?
They're better.
They're better.
I really like what I've seen out of Tatum. If he can really right away be
looked
good,
nice.
and
He looked
if
nice.
Jaylen Brown makes a leap, like he's been better. But if I'm Boston, I almost like the path that they're on, which is they're going to be better next season. I don't think they can beat Cleveland, but Cleveland's declining. LeBron may leave,
Boston's going up.
and Boston's keeping a younger team that's on the rise.
And
That's
they
going to
still
get
got
better.
draft picks.
So
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be Boston Warriors in the finals next year, but maybe the year
years
after,
after.
and then maybe it's 3 of those beyond that.
Yeah, I think Boston's better, but I think this is the start. I mean, they still could have 2 lottery picks coming. Jaylen Brown is good. I'm with you on this Tatum. Like, I didn't know he was this good. But
Who's
man,
doing
he's
like little pull up?
He's looking like he
Yeah.
could be really good. Then you got Hayward. I think they have the building blocks to start something. They might not be there right now because in the end, like, who's guarding LeBron?
But they don't want to be there right
No,
now. That's
exactly.
the thing.
They don't-
That's,
they don't
that's
have to
why
be.
they didn't make the Paul George trade, really, or at least wouldn't give up a lot.
Okay, so really no true comparison, but he was getting a slight bit of the KD treatment, everything from the Players Tribune
Betray word.
to
Betray.
betray.
That was the hashtag.
People love that. Okay, so a few more questions before we wrap this
That's pretty
thing.
good, though, by the way.
Yeah, it's not
Betray
bad.
was pretty good.
I like that. All right, so with KD and Curry taking pay cuts, do you think, as we kind of mentioned before, Clay, does he follow suit with that? What about Draymond in 2020? I mean, it's so far down the road, but is that a possibility?
I think they all will take pay cuts. I think.
But how long can you keep this thing together? I mean, that's 4 years or 3 years down the road.
As long as Joe Lacob is willing to pay, and like you said, if something happens in the next 2 years and this goes bad and they're fighting in a locker room or they hate Steve or obviously all of that stuff can happen, but only thing stopping it from staying together is money. I mean, that's really it. I do think in the end, because that's the tone that's been set, it's almost like in San Antonio, it becomes an environment now. And Andre is like the one dude ornery enough to be like, no, I'm getting all my money. And everybody kind of understands, that's Andre. He can be stubborn like that. The rest of them still, they want to make moves and do all that. Draymond, I think Draymond will take a pay cut because he understands. In Draymond's mind, he's like, I'm about to win 5 championships.
He doesn't want to leave. I don't think Iguodala wanted to leave either.
I don't think
he's still going to play those games to get his. I think
Clay will say, look, Clay just got an $80 million deal from Anta, right? He's not trying to get every nickel. He could have parlayed this to Nike.
And to interrupt you, that's the thing that people don't understand about Kevin Durant with all these endorsement deals and just all of the stuff, that's pertain to championships. It's not like him taking a pay cut is that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things, where he's making all this other money and all these incentives that are kind of loaded into his contract and endorsement deals. He's still getting paid with that.
The money he gave to Iguodala is a lot more important to Iguodala than it is to Durant.
Yeah, that $9 million wasn't. But he gave $3 million to Iguodala. He gave the rest to Joe Lacob.
All right, let's wrap.
I'm not letting him off. Nick Young, yeah.
Let's wrap this up. The one thing that we didn't mention, Carmelo Anthony. Now kind of sitting here wondering what's going to happen with him. I mean, what do you foresee?
Going to Houston.
Goes to Houston.
Cleveland.
It could be Cleveland.
I would like to see him in Cleveland.
I don't think LeBron wants him in Cleveland. I'm just going to say that. I think they're buddies.
They can play USA every few years, but they don't want to be teammates.
They play the same position. LeBron wants to be able to get after dudes, right? Mm-hmm. Can he get after Melo? Who is he screaming at Melo like he does Tristan Thompson?
I don't think Melo would stand for that.
But I'm saying, notice who his teammates are. It's always people who he can be like Debo over you, kind of. I don't know, but I think Melo needs the ball, and he plays the same position as LeBron, the 3-4 spot. Where's he gonna play? LeBron's gonna be like, yeah, put Melo next to me. We about to wreck the league. And I don't. How does that work? I think it's a better fit for him in Houston.
I think either of those teams want him to get bought out somehow, and then they just get him on. You just add him to the team, because Cleveland would have to give up probably Kevin Love to get him, and I don't think that's a good idea.
All right, that's going to do it for us on Bay Area Sports Insiders. Thank you for all the questions. We appreciate it. Thank you to those watching MercuryNews.com, EastBayTimes.com, and all of our Facebook pages. Be sure to check out our latest free agency coverage as this thing continues on. Well, as we said, we'll hear from Bob Myers tomorrow, smooth out a few things with the Warriors. And going forward, follow Anthony and Marcus on Twitter. They will keep you updated on the latest with the Warriors. And go join Anthony in Vegas. Take him to the Top Golf or Win. What are those things out there?
Top Golf. You're not taking him
to Top Golf. I'm not going to Top Golf in Vegas.
Why
take
not?
Him to Aria or something.
Okay, take him somewhere fun. What's the big casino?
He's got
to go do a radio interview. We got to go. We'll see you guys later. Thanks so much.